Okay guys, so this is the second half of the review. Number 6, it says, does number 4 above have a max or min value? So let's go back to number 4, and there's going to be questions like this on the quiz, all right, tomorrow, where you go back to previous equations, and you got to look at them. So look at number 4, that a value is negative. What does that mean? Does it open up or down? If the a value is negative, it's opening down. So if it is opening down, number 4, does it have a max or a min? Max, right? So number 4 definitely has a max value, okay? And it says, what is it? Okay, so we need to find out the max value. If you know the vertex, which we do know, we did our work, that's 0, 9, that's the max value. So what is the max value? You could either say 9, or you could give the precise location of the max value, 0, 9. It's up to you. This is a good answer. This, according to me, is even better. But either one's good. And I think the multiple choice part of the quiz has it as just 9. Let's move on to the next one. Number 7, state the domain and range of number 4 above. Okay, so we need to go back to number 4, back to this one, and state the domain and range. Well, we know it's opening down, right? Because the a value is negative. We know the actual vertex is 0, 9. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't have started with the parabola. Let's start with the vertex and do a quick sketch. 0, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's way up here. So there's my vertex, and I know it's opening down, so just to make a quick sketch, that's what it, oh, that's ugly. But just to make a quick sketch, that's what it looks like. The parabola opening down from that max value 0, 9. And they want us to state the domain and range of this thing. So what's the domain for this parabola? And don't forget about stating x. X equals all real numbers. And that's true for any parabola. It doesn't matter whether it opens up or down. X equals all real numbers. Now when we talk about range, that would be the y values. Y is what? Now y is going up or down. So this whole parabola is at this max value and it's below that max value. So what is this max value of y? 9. So this whole parabola is below the y value of 9. How do we state that in terms of an inequality? It is right there at 9. It is there at 9. It's at 9 and below. So how do we write that as an inequality? Below. Less than or equal to 9, right? If it were above, then it would be greater than or equal to 9. But in this case, it's right here at 9 and below, so it's less than or equal to 9. So this is the answer to that question that we were doing. They asked us to look back at number 4. That was the answer to number 7, stating the domain and range of number 4 above. Okay, number 8. State the domain and range of number 1 above. Okay, so let's go back to number 1, way up here. And we even drew a sketch for it already. The vertex was easy to find because the b value was 0. So the vertex was 0, 3, 0 on the x, 3 on the y. There was a vertex. The a value is positive 1, so we know it's opening up. So that tells us that it's a minimum value. But they want us to state the domain and range. So let's state the domain and range of this guy. The domain is what? X equals all real numbers. Don't forget about the x equals part. And the range is what? Y is, it's right here. Right, remember, y's are up and down, so it's here and above. Greater than or equal to 3. There you go. You see, it's easy. There's your answer to that next question, okay, that we just did. That was number 8. Let's move on to number 9. State the solutions of number 1 above by visualizing the parabola. Now, I guess the important thing here to remember is that the solutions are the x-intercept values, okay? So right here, I kind of give you that. I say it to state the solutions by visualizing the parabola and stating the x-intercepts. I'm not going to tell you that on the quiz, all right? You just need to know that the x-intercept values are the solutions. So if we go to number 1, Whoa, went too far. If I go to number 1, and I ask you for the solutions of that parabola, what do you say? If you know that they're the x-intercept values. Here's the x-axis. Where does it cross your x-axis? Where does the parabola cross the x-axis? Nowhere. Now, if you say 0, you're telling me that it crosses right here, that it actually touches the 0 on the x. But notice it doesn't touch at all, right? So what do we say about the solutions to number 1? What do we say about the solutions to number 1? That there are no solutions, right? So you write this no solution symbol. Or you could write out no solution, right? Up to you. So the last thing I ask you to do is to study last week's quiz, because last week's quiz is pretty much everything, or the majority of what's going to be on tomorrow's quiz also. Study last week's quiz. We had a lot of graphing and stating everything that we can. So this final part right here, it says, graph and state everything you know about the following parabola. Everything we know about the following parabola. Well, let's start by finding the vertex, which is a coordinate. And of course, how do you find that coordinate? With x equals negative b over 2a. And of course, we use parentheses to plug in. And if we look at our a value is the first one, the b value is the middle one, the c value is the last one. So our b value is negative 4, let's plug that in. Our a value is negative 1, let's plug that in. So we end up with a positive 4 up on top, because a negative and a negative become positive. And on the bottom you end up with a negative 2. So that's really a division problem, 4 divided by negative 2, which means that your x value is negative 2. Does everybody agree? That's our x value of our vertex, negative 2. So what we need to do now is find the y value by going back to the original and replacing the x's with parentheses, so I could plug in the negative 2 on the negative 2. So let me rewrite this with parentheses instead of x's. And let's plug in a negative 2 right in there. And let's zoom in and work this out. If I zoom in, we're going to start with exponents. Negative 2 to the second power, that is positive 4. But don't forget about this minus sign that's out here in the front. Bring it down. Number one mistake that students make, guys, is they see this minus and they change them to plus plus. Incorrect. Because you're supposed to do exponents first. Negative 2 squared. Negative 2 times negative 2, positive 4. What about the minus sign in front? You bring it down. So it actually becomes a negative 4 again. Now over here you have a negative 4, a minus 4, that I want to call negative 4 times negative 2. That will become a positive 8. And at the very end I'm just going to bring down the minus 3. So what we really have is a negative 4 plus 8. That's going to be positive 4. And then bring down the minus 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our y value for our vertex. So we have negative 2. And we have the y value of positive 1. So there it is right there, positive 1. So let's now graph that most important point, negative 2, positive 1. So that's pretty easy. You just go negative 2 on the x, positive 1 on the y. That's our vertex. Put a dot right there. And now let's draw our axis of symmetry right through it. Okay, and now obviously we need more points. We can't just leave it like that. We need the parabola, so we need more coordinates. So what I'm going to do is do an XY table right next to it on the left side. And let's think of an easy number to plug in. What would that be? The easiest number to plug in? 0, that's right. Because whenever you plug in 0 into your x values, then your c value is your output. So in this case, when I plug in 0, I get out a negative 3. And 0, negative 3, 0 on the x, negative 1, 2, 3 is down here. So let me put that dot right there. And let me map it over to the other side. What do I mean by map it over? It's 1, 2 units away, 1, 2 units away. Put it right there. Now, I don't want you guys to just stop right there. That's kind of like being lazy, right? Some people just stop right there and they do a V like this and they mess it up. Because that's not how a parabola looks. It's a better idea to plug in another point. What would be another point or another value to plug in for x, guys? Okay, if you go 1, it's going to be even further down. 2 is going to be even further down. What number would be nice to plug in so I can see what's going on right here in this area? Negative 1. Yeah, so let's plug in negative 1. That's the best option. Okay? And when we plug in negative 1, I guess, yeah, let me rewrite this one more time right here. Rewrite this one more time, but instead of x's, let me put parentheses, and then I'll plug in the negative 1. So there it is. Let me plug in the negative 1. Okay, so when we work this out, let me zoom in to work this out. We're going to go with negative 1 squared. Again, do not change the minus minus. That's incorrect. Minus minus changes to plus plus because a negative times a negative is a positive. But we know we need to do exponents before multiplying. So right here you do exponents. So you go negative 1 times negative 1, that's positive 1. But with the negative in front, that will be negative 1. Okay? And now negative 4 times negative 1, that's positive 4. And then at the very end, the minus 3, just bring it down. And if I work this out, negative 1 plus 4, that's 3. And 3 take away 3, that is 0. Okay? So for my input of negative 1, my output is 0. And that is another coordinate. And that's what I was looking for, guys. So let me go to the coordinate negative 1, 0. That's right there. Let me map it over to the other side. It's right there. And now I have a great drawing of the parabola. Put arrows on it. And we're good. Okay. So this did say state everything that you could tell about this parabola, about this quadratic equation. So what else could we say about this quadratic equation? We could talk about the axis of symmetry. What is the equation of the axis of symmetry? X equals what? X equals what? Negative 2. Simply the x value of your vertex. So that's another thing you could state, that the axis of symmetry is the equation x equals negative 2. The vertical line going right through the x value of negative 2. What else could we say? We could talk about domain and range, right? What's the domain? X equals all real numbers. What's the range? Y is, it's right here at 1, and it's less than or equal to 1. So y is less than or equal to 1. Perfect. So we have domain and range right there. What else could we say? This parabola, does it have a max value or a minimum value? Max. If it's going from left to right, it's going up, going up, going up, stops at a max height, then it comes back down. So that's definitely a max value. If I asked you what's the max height, you could either give the vertex, or you could say that the max height is 1, right? Or you could give the vertex negative 2 comma 1. It's up to you. The max height is right there, negative 2 comma 1, or just 1. What else could we say? If I had an equation, let's say my equation was negative x squared minus 4x minus 3 equals 0, which is the same thing, but instead of equals y, it equals 0, and I asked you to solve it, what would my answers be based on the graph that you already did right here? What would the answers be based on that graph? Remember, the answers are the x-intercept values. So what are the x-intercept values of this parabola? It crosses at negative 1. It doesn't cross at negative 2, but it crosses at negative 3, right? So what are your answers? X equals negative 3 and x equals negative 1. Those are the two solutions to the equation if it were a quadratic equation. So you could also say that the answers or solutions or even x-intercepts are x equals negative 3 and negative 1. I believe that's about all we could possibly say. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about this parabola. We got it. Do we understand everything? By the way, just for kicks, this equation right here that I asked you, what are the answers to it? It doesn't necessarily have to be equal to 0. It could be looking like this, which is the same equation. All I did was place this minus 3, place the minus 3 over to the other side by adding 3 to both sides. So this equation would still have the answers negative 3 and negative 1 because those are the x-intercept values of the parabola. I hope this helps.